Hi guys, it's Pavi. It's the match that we've been waiting for. The 10-time Australian Open champion Novak Djokovic takes on the defending champion Jannik Sinner in the semi-final of the 2026 Australian Open tomorrow. In a few hours, actually. In a few hours, we're really not got long to go now, and I really wanted to do a quick preview of that match tomorrow and what I think Djokovic needs to do to stand a chance to beat Jannik Sinner, and why I believe that Djokovic has got that little bit of X factor coming into this match for tomorrow, which he has lacked in his last few matches against Jannik Sinner. So if we go straight into the head-to-head, at the moment, Jannik Sinner leads 6-4. Now, that probably doesn't tell its story because in the first four matches, Djokovic won all four of those matches, but he has lost the last six. Now, that might be alarming to some that think that he's not got a chance. Now, let's be honest. I've looked at all the bookmakers' odds, and Djokovic is a huge outsider to even kind of get close to Sinner, let alone beat him. You know, some bookmakers have got odds of 10-1 on Djokovic to beat Jannik Sinner. I've never seen odds that high for Djokovic to win any tennis match, even when he was like 18, 19, 20 years ago, when he wasn't a 24-time Grand Slam champion. So, the bookmakers are not wrong often, and this would be a huge shock if Djokovic was to turn the tables. Let's make no mistake about that. But I want to talk about kind of his games that he's had with Sinner and the last six, and why I haven't really expected for him to win a lot of those. Obviously, one of his defeats was in the Davis Cup, which was a really close match, Serbia versus Italy. This is the one where Djokovic famously had 3 match points on Jannik Sinner's serve, but Jannik Sinner kind of, he held serve with some great play, and he went on to win that match. So that's a match where you think that was one defeat where Djokovic should have won. Had he won, it would have been 5-5 in the head-to-head, but he lost that. We then look at kind of the other matches. In 2024 in the Australian Open, Djokovic had just come off an amazing 2023, obviously, where he got to 3 of the 4, he got to all 4 finals and won 3 of them and was runner-up in the other one. It was a phenomenal season. He went into 2024, I think, still in kind of party mode, really, with 2023. But if you remember, he had this fever and cough in the whole of the 2024 Australian Open, and a lot of people were really surprised that he actually made the semi-final. I thought that he was going to pull out quarterfinal, 4th round, because it was one of those things where it wasn't just a cold, it seemed to be a full-blown infection, which Djokovic kind of confirmed afterwards. But Sinner beat him in 4 sets, but most importantly, Djokovic still managed to get a set off Sinner. That's the only time that they've met in the Australian Open. We then fast forward to kind of last year, and Djokovic played Jannik Sinner in the semi-finals of Roland Garros and the semi-finals of Wimbledon. These were 2 matches where I didn't think Djokovic would get anywhere near Sinner. In Roland Garros, Djokovic was last year, he was doing a lot of PR commitments. I don't think he had any lead-up games into the Roland Garros. It was a bit of a surprise that he made it all the way to the semi-final, but he was running on empty when he got to the semi-final. So I wasn't massively surprised. Even then, if you look at the set scores, Djokovic lost 6-4, 7-5, 7-6, 3 really tight sets. A couple of breaks here and there, and that could have been different. Wasn't, not a huge gap there at all. And then we go on to Wimbledon. Now, Djokovic played Sinner in the semi-final. Now, I was at the match when he played against Flavio Cobolli, and he took a really bad fall, actually on match point, which, was just the look that he was getting last year in slams. It was really bad. He looked over towards the box and he kind of shook his head. And that's after he's just won a quarterfinal match. And I think he knew that something was up. In the next couple of days prior to the match with Sinner, Djokovic considered withdrawing out of that match because he had picked up an injury. He decided to play. In hindsight, probably wasn't the best thing. and Yannick Sinner won in straight sets. It was a very flat match. You never heard a single come on from Djokovic. I think he just wanted to get the match done, but he was struggling with an injury. So that was the last kind of slam match they played. I'm not including exhibitions and the Kings slam. They don't really count. I don't think anyone was really bothered there. They were just really just going to put on a show for the Middle East, which is fair enough. So this is where I think Djokovic this year, going into 2026 Australian Open, he's had a little bit of luck. Okay, let's not beat around the bush. He's had a bit of luck in this year's Australian Open. So he was set to play Jakub Mensik in round 4. Now, many of you may remember that Mensik beat him in, I think it was Indian Wells or Miami, one of the two Masters. He beat him 7-6, 6-7, 6-7. Some really, really close match, but he still beat him. Okay, so Mensik had that win against Djokovic, and he was going into form. So that would have been a tough match for Djokovic. Let's not pretend anything otherwise. He got a walkover because Mensik picked up an injury. Now, the quarterfinal is where he got really lucky because he was playing against Kaboli and he went 2 sets to love down. Not a disaster for Djokovic, though, because he has come back, many, many times in Grand Slams from 2 sets to love down, and also against Musetti. Sorry, not Kaboli, against Musetti. But he kind of had a break, 3-1. He still had a long way to go. And then Musetti said that he had an injury, he was struggling, and he decided to withdraw from that match. Now, he wasn't the only person who had an injury in that match. Djokovic picked up a really bad blister in that match, which I think was one of the reasons why he struggled in that match. He didn't play his best, but it was also playing against Musetti. And in their 10 matches, Djokovic is 9-1 up. And I think he's won the last 7 on the trot against Musetti. So I think Djokovic kind of maybe underestimated him a little bit. I think Musetti is probably more known to be a very strong player on clay and not as hard. And maybe Djokovic thought Australian Open, hardcore, this is my patch. And maybe he wasn't as quite kind of fired up or ready for Musetti. So it was a brilliant wake-up call. But I think that is actually going to help him. Now, going into tomorrow, as I said, the bookmakers have written him off. The media have written him off. But Djokovic is going into this relatively fresh, which is not done in his previous last few meetings against Yannick Sinner. He's had injuries or he's had fatigue. He's going into this relatively fresh. The big concern for me is this blister, because it looks as though it's quite a big blister. His physio and team have been working on it. There's quite a big plaster on there, and I know someone who've had blisters that it's a really tricky thing to get because it's really painful, and the painkillers sometimes don't work as effectively on blisters as they would with other pain. So that's my only concern. But Djokovic is fresh. He is fired up this Australian Open. Let's not make a mistake. He was lucky also in the Australian Open where he hit a ball in frustration, which nearly hit the ball boy. But that's the Djokovic that I like to see. And I don't care what the woke crowd think of him. Djokovic at his best has to be fired up. And we've not really seen that last year where he's really kind of, the Djokovic that we know that, when he played Ben Shelton in 2023, he had a point to prove. He did the phone celebration, Shelton had wound him up, or, screaming at his box, smashing rackets. I want to see that Djokovic tomorrow. Everyone knows now Djokovic is a nice guy. He's the nicest guy in the world, one of the nicest guys in the world, very generous, very calm. But on that court tomorrow, I want him to be a beast. I want to see that wolf back. It was really interesting when Aryna Sabalenka today, she was absolutely, in her own words, pissed off with the umpire who unfairly called her for an hindrance very early in that match. And it was a bad call. And the umpire will probably look back and said, yeah, I made a big mistake, but it was a key point. And Sabalenka was pissed. Now, she said that in hindsight, that actually helped her because she plays with intensity. The more intensity Sabalenka plays, the more difficult it is for the opponent. She said she got aggressive. She was fired up, which meant every shot that she played with had fire and intensity. Now, Djokovic, He's not a serve volleyer. He's not got a huge serve. His game is based on his ground strokes, his depth, his precision. To have that, you have to have fire in your belly all the time. You have to be pissed. Even if someone's wound you up from the crowd or the opponent or the umpire, he needs to have that intensity. He can't play tomorrow placid. He can't play placid and applaud Sinner's shots. Tomorrow he has to go to war to have a chance. He has to go to war. We know Djokovic, has huge respect for every player, even Yannick Sinner. He's got huge respect for him. But for tomorrow, he needs to know that he needs to go into this to have a chance that he is going into war. And I want to see him. I want to see Mad Djokovic. I want to see him smash balls, smash rackets, berate his box. Do whatever he needs to do to get him going. Because when he's going and he's got that intensity, I still firmly believe that he is still the number one player in the world when he is at his best. And to be at his best, he has got to have that intensity. So that is why I think that Djokovic has got a chance to beat Sinner tomorrow. And, if you look at the bookmakers' odds, no one's given him a prayer. I've watched Djokovic for over 20 years now. And, I follow him very, very closely. This year, he's got that glint in the Australian Open. I honestly think he's here for business. It's not going to be easy. We know Sinner post failing 2 drug tests. He's playing like Djokovic on hard, like Federer on grass, like Nadal on clay with the endurance and stamina of Andy Murray and the speed of Alcaraz. He's got everything now, hasn't he? He's got everything. Let's be honest. He's got everything. But one thing that he hasn't really faced with is a really pissed Novak Djokovic. All their few matches that they've had, Djokovic has been very respectful. Remember one match where Sinner took a tumble and Djokovic helped him up. There's a mutual respect there, but Djokovic, never. I don't think Sinner really gets under his skin a lot like some players do. I think when Djokovic played Federer and Nadal, you knew that Djokovic was on the zone. He knew that he didn't want to let them get one over on him. With Sinner, I don't think he has that. Has a huge amount of animosity towards him. So I think, and Sinner's not seen that from Djokovic. He's not seen Djokovic when he's pissed. And I've seen Djokovic in Grand Slams and I've been courtside. And when he is angry and mad, the opponents know it. They know it and they can feel the power and the precision of his ground stroke. So I want to see Djokovic give Sinner that he's not dealt with something like that before. So if he's watching, just bring it out. Be a beast for that match. After the match, shake hands, hug, speak nicely, as you always do. Classy, articulate man that he is, generous man that he is. Absolutely fine. But in the match, don't care about what people think. Don't care what the media are going to think of you. Don't care what the fans are going to think of you. Just go out there and treat it as a war. And if you do, I think Sinner is going to be shocked with what he faces. And I think it will help Djokovic with his intensity and his game. So I am genuinely speaking here as a fan, but also as a pundit, and I do think I think Djokovic has got a chance. I think it's going to be a really, really good game. So I don't think it's going to be 3 sets. I think it's going to be 4 or 5 sets. So I don't think Sinner beating him in straight sets in the last couple of times is going to happen this time. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be tight. And let's see. Have the bookmakers got it completely wrong? Have they completely written off the 10 times Australian Open champion? Or is Sinner just a machine and he is unbeatable? We will soon find out. So thankfully for the UK and European fans, it's an early morning game, not in the middle of the night, which was the case for the Massetti game. So that's a bit of good news for those. And obviously it's a night session, the second night session match at Rod Laver tomorrow. So let's, excited for it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if he's got a chance or whether I'm just putting my heart above my head, or whether what I've said makes sense to why I think he's going to have a really good chance tomorrow. Okay, all the best. Come on, Djokovic, you can do this. Idemo, Ole! Idemo, I'm on Ole! Bring out the wolf.